Invocation. Shri Harim Paramanandam, Shri Harim Paramanandam, Upadeshtaram Ishwaram, Vyapakam Sarvalokanam, Vyapakam Sarvalokanam, Karanam Tam Namamyaham, Karanam Tam Namamyaham. Before we continue, I thought I should scare you a little bit. So here are some standard cautions, buyer beware kind of thing. One is that do not neglect spiritual practices. Some people become very enthusiastic about this because this is so obviously true. The more you begin to get it, it seems to be the direct, simplest statement of the truth. So one feels that, okay, I've got it. What else is there? All I need is this, Advaita Vedanta, the path of knowledge. But do not give up spiritual practices. The other yogas, that is bhakti yoga, devotional practice in your life, karma yoga, a life of service in your community, in your family, in your wherever, and meditation. Here we are talking about Advaitic meditation, but I mean the yogic meditation. That means a regular habit of sitting twice in a day at least for some time and quietening the body and mind. So these things should be continued. Swami Vivekananda called it the harmony of four yogas. He said very clearly, so isn't this enough? It is. But it's a much safer and better way if you have the basis of all the yogas. Even if you see Shankaracharya, the commentaries on the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and so on, clearly he shows the role of karma yoga, the role of bhakti, the role of meditation. Each of them has a role to play. So only at one's peril do you ignore the other yogas. The other caution is, do not use Advaita as a weapon. Like to cut down others, to treat others with contempt. From the point of Advaita, it seems so logical, rational, clear, and luminous. There is a tendency, there is to look down upon others. Oh, it's stupid. The rest is for stupid people, or it's for people who are superstitious, or for people who don't get it. Some lower category of person. It can happen. Advaita Vedanta, properly understood, mature understanding is, it gives you the rational, the basis, the foundation of all religion. Improperly understood, it is used to cut down others. See, in Advaita philosophy, there will be a lot of argument and they will show how other philosophies or approaches are wrong. That's good for philosophy. But understand the truth in all approaches, you can understand it very well from the Advaita perspective. So a mature use of Advaita is to see it as the foundation of religion, not to pull out the rug from under the feet of religion. Yeah. So, because it can be done. I remember a scientist, physics. He told me, he felt hurt, he went to this Advaita teacher, very well known Advaita teacher, he's passed away now. And when he explained that he's from a physics background, the moment he said that, this teacher, the master, looked at him and said, "Oh, science, that's all Maya, forget it. Come here." So if you do that, it's hurtful. And not only that, ultimately science, art, all of that, these are different ways of appreciating and trying to understand reality. Advaita at its core is the science of reality. So instead of dismissing, try to integrate and be synthetic about it. Swami Vivekananda's approach was, we always move not from falsity to truth, but from lower truth to higher truth. That's a very positive approach. Also, it has been the standard Hindu approach for since ancient times. Whenever you have something new, something higher, they should not dismiss or cut down the older one. Remember, as Swami Vivekananda said, we must not condemn. Remember, these are the steps which helped us, maybe in this life, maybe in past lives, to come up to where you are. So, bless all of those. Maintain all of those. They are useful to all. They'll be useful for others. So, I get something higher. I understand this. The reality is within me. It is this ever-present consciousness. Now, if I immediately say, "Oh, dismiss all forms of God, dismiss all dualistic worship, prayer, all of that," then it is harmful. So, the traditional approach, look at the Upanishads themselves. Mundaka Upanishad, when you move from, in the Mundaka Upanishad it is said about the Karma Kanda, in the Upanishads you move from Karma Kanda to Jnana Kanda. The ritualistic portion of the Vedas, you transcend them, that they are not necessary. There is a higher reality which should be realized, that Brahman exists and you should realize it as your own self. That is the teaching of the Upanishad. Now what about the rest of the Vedas? The bulk of the Vedas is concerned with rituals, most of which are defunct now. We have replaced them with our new forms of Hindu worship, the temples and the deities and all. But what about all of that? All the pujas, rituals, what about all of that? Should you dismiss them as false, wrong? No. What did the Upanishad do about Karma Kanda? Karma Kanda will not lead you to the highest, but if you do it nishkama, without any motive, without any worldly desire, if you practice those upasanas, those rituals, those meditations, they will prepare the mind for knowledge. So immediately, instead of dismissing the earlier stages of religion, they are seen as preparatory, as essential, as providing the foundation. And Advaita provides the reasoning, the logic behind religion. Not to dismiss religion, but to give the foundation. I remember one Swami is an American. So I asked him, how did you come to Vedanta? And he said, when I grew up, he grew up in the deep south here, and he grew up and he said, I belong to a church, and every church, my friends belong to different churches, and everyone would tell us, we are right and everybody else is wrong. I quickly discovered that my pastor was saying that we'll go to heaven, but everybody else is going to burn in hell. And very soon I discovered that my friends' pastors were telling them the same thing about us. And I came to the conclusion, he says, as a teenager, that perhaps they are all wrong. There's almost inevitable conclusion you'll come to if you hear such things. Perhaps they are all wrong. So I lost interest. There was a hunger for spirituality, but this kind of thing did not satisfy it. It's only later when I came across a book, Vedanta for the Western World, he says, when I read it and it dawned upon me, perhaps they are all right. So they are all right, not in the details. In the details they are all different. The details are different, and they should be different. That makes it rich. God is infinite, so their paths to God are also infinite. But all of them contain truth, and they are pointing to a higher truth. So this is the mature way of understanding Vedanta. Another warning, I know you are mature enough not to do that. Use Vedanta to lead an unethical life. I am Brahman, so nothing affects me. So whatever I do, I don't care. After all, logically, you would tell me, Swami, isn't it true? As a Brahman, whatever happens, as Brahman, nothing affects me. Sri Ramakrishna faced this. He was speechless, he told a sadhu was there, who was a non-dualist, but he was given to telling lies. So Sri Ramakrishna confronted him once. You are a sadhu, why are you telling lies? And you know what the sadhu replied? Whole world is a lie, why are you catching only my lies? It's all Maya, it's appearance, so I'm telling lies. No. That is not only not good, that is not Advaita. That's just deceiving oneself and deceiving others. Unethical life. Advaita is based on ethics. The fourfold qualification makes sure you have a solid foundation of ethics. None of us is perfect. Just go back and repair the damage what has been done and try not to do it again. That's all. It will be a struggle, but that's good. The struggle is good. Yes, so these are the three things I wanted to say. One is, do not neglect the other spiritual practices. One must continue to perform them. Do not use Advaita to cut down religion. It is the foundation of religion, logic of religion. Third, ethical life. Important. Ethical life is important. I mean, not important, central. Without ethics, no spirituality. Without spirituality, one can be a good person, ethical person. But without ethics, no spirituality. Now, let us go back to Vedantic meditation. How many have we done? We have done Yama, Niyama, Tyaga. That's all. We're not making much progress. Alright. Now next one. Silence. Maunam. Verse number 107. Page 79. Yasmad vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha yanmaunam yogi bhirgamyam tadbhavet sarvada buddha. Maunam. What does it mean? Silence is a practice that many spiritual aspirants they follow. Mahatma Gandhi, he used to practice once in a week. He would not speak. Swami Ranganathanandaji also. And there are many others. So the practice of not speaking for some time, silence. But remember, silence is not only silence of the speech, it's also silence of the mind. Why would you practice that? Because the mind and following that, the speech, the organ of speech, has this habit of chattering away all the time. And we do not know how much energy is expended that way. If you talk a lot, you can't think well. Look at me, Swami, be careful. Yes. There was a philosopher, I don't know if he's still alive, a wonderful gentleman. I've met him in Calcutta. He was in the Institute of Culture. And he taught philosophy and retired, and then he was in Institute of Culture in one of our centers. And he was a true philosopher. You know what is a true philosopher? Schopenhauer, the great German philosopher, he said there are two kinds of philosophers. The genuine philosopher and the academic philosopher. So the genuine philosopher is one who is puzzled by life. He looks at life and is puzzled by life and has questions about life. Genuine philosopher. And the academic philosopher is puzzled by his books. So he learns from books basically. Now this person was like that, genuine philosopher. But he didn't write anything. He didn't publish books. So he was criticized by others that why have you kept him? Why have you hired him? He's not publishing. No, do you publish or perish like that? So one of my friends, a monk, one day asked him, "Sir, you explain things so well when we ask you. So why don't you give talks or write books?" And so this philosopher, he replied, Swami, you speak like this. You see, those who talk a lot, they can't write. I'm very lazy about writing actually. Those who talk a lot, they can't write. Those who write a lot, they don't think. I think. Yeah. Silence. You will find there is a calmness, a deepness, an inwardness that grows if you stop speaking for a while. So maunam. That's why many yogis practice maunam. At least the rule is satyam cha hitam cha mitam cha. Satyam means it must be true. Don't speak the false. There's a well-known saying we have, Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, ma bruyat, satyam apriyam. Tell the truth, tell what is pleasant, but don't tell the truth which is unpleasant. And of course, don't tell untruths. Which means don't hurt people with the truth also. I'm practicing the truth. I'm going to tell you exactly what's wrong with you. No, don't do that. Mark Twain said, I have often seen people who claim to be fond of the brutal truth. They are more fond of brutality than the truth. So, Satyam cha, truth, it should be true. Hitam cha, is it beneficial? Is it constructive? What I'm going to do now, is it constructive? Is it helpful to say these things? And third, mitam, it should be minimal. Don't speak too much. Speak the truth, speak what is beneficial, and don't speak too much. Speak less. So that is the rule. But always remember that speech begins in the mind, not really at the tongue. And often if you suppress the physical speaking, mental chatter goes on, and it may actually increase. And there are people who don't speak, but they write it out, or they indicate things. I remember in renunciation, one Swami in the Himalayas, he had passed away by the time I went. Another Swami was telling me about him. He is well known for not touching money. If you give him gifts, he will not touch money. But the thing is, what he would do is, he had these long pincers. So if you put money before him, he will take the pincers, pick it up and put it in. So now, why go through all that rigmarole? If you need the money, take it. You don't need it, don't take it. That's it. But I will not touch it physically, but I will touch it with pincers. In the same way, speaking, if you replace it with some people have a board and a chalk. Gandhiji used to use that only when necessary, because he was such a busy person. I remember this monk in our order. He was practicing the vow of silence for years together. He wouldn't speak. So one night, I remember I was in an ashram, and that Swami came, the one who was following a vow of silence, and he was my roommate. So at night, I was a novice. I went to sleep. He also went to sleep. Of course, he wouldn't speak. And all night long, he kept on speaking. In his dreams, in his sleep. He kept on speaking in his sleep. He was mumbling throughout the night. What happens is that's repression. Year after year, if I don't speak, the mind wants to express itself. So what happens is it all comes out at night. So next morning I told him, Swami, you are speaking at night, all night long you are speaking. And he uses sign language. So he looks flabbergasted. He's like, who, me? No. He wouldn't believe it. So that kind of repression is not what is meant. But once in a while, like Ranganathanji would do it once a week, Mahatma Gandhi would do it once a week, and there are many others. So once in a while, half a day or something like that. It's much better to be reasonable, not the truth, beneficial and minimal. But that's not what is meant. That is the yogic practice. What is the Advaitic practice? Yasmad vacho nivartante. Brahman is that which cannot be expressed by words. So the silence which yogis practice, the non-dualist is that silence. You are that silence. What is that silence? Consciousness, awareness. So you know yourself as that silence. One of the names of consciousness is Shantam, not peaceful, peace itself. There is a silence which underlies both the presence and absence of noise. There is a kind of silence which is the absence of noise. What is that? Silence. There is speech and absence of speech. That's silence. But that is just noise and absence of noise. But there is a silence which underlies both. That silence is awareness, consciousness itself. In itself, it's completely silent. It is a silent witness of noise or speech, and the silent witness of the absence of speech. The Om in Mandukya Upanishad, Om, composed of A, U, Ma, the three letters. A standing for you, the waker, and your waking world. U standing for you, the dreamer, and your dream world. And the N, standing for deep sleep, you in deep sleep. And after that, the silence which follows Om, it stands for the witness consciousness, which observes all three, which shines upon the waking, dreaming, deep sleep. That silence, he says, the non-dualist, the Advaitin, is the silence which the yogi is trying to practice. Two more verses on silence. 108 and 9. We'll do it together. Vacho yasmat nivartante tadvaktum ke na shakyate prapancho yadi vaktavya sopi shabda vivarjitah iti va tadbhavet maunam satam sahaja sangitam gira maunam tu balanam prayuktam brahmavadibhi. So what is silence according to the masters of Advaita, Brahmavadi? According to the masters of Advaita non-dualism, what is silence? He says, that which speech cannot express. What is that which speech cannot express? Brahman. That's awareness. You know it, but you cannot express it. Because whatever you express will be something with name and form. So that which speech cannot express, what words can express that? So no speech can express the reality. Alright, I will not speak about Brahman, but I'll speak about the world. It says, even about the world, whatever you speak is not a report of the reality. Really, you cannot express the reality of this world. Whatever you say, the reality escapes language. Somebody said, language is the knife with which you cut reality. This is letter killeth the spirit. There is a saying, letter killeth the spirit. When you express it in language, it's already dead. So even this world, Vedanta, this world is Maya, Sad Asadbhyam Anirvachanyam, inexpressible as is or is not. It is Maya. So whatever is in this world, whatever you're experiencing, that also is indeterminable. I have mentioned it sometimes. It's very interesting. I read this book on Gödel's theorem. You know, Kurt Gödel was a great mathematician, logician, one of the greatest minds of the 20th century. In fact, he was in Princeton. There's a new book out. The person I mentioned, Jim Holt, who wrote the book, Why Does the World Exist? He has written a new book. The name of the book is When Gödel Walked with Einstein. It's just out. So both of them were working in the Institute of Advanced Studies, IAS, in Princeton University during the Second World War, after the Second World War also. And every day the two of them, Einstein and Gödel, the two greatest scientific minds of the world, they used to walk from their house to the office in the Institute of Advanced Studies, and again in the evening walk back. Later on, Einstein said that sometimes I come to the office only for the privilege of walking for the walk with Gödel back and forth. Einstein himself was very affable and amiable. He mixed with all kinds of people. He loved human company, children to older people to scientists to janitors, everybody. And Gödel was just the opposite. He was highly suspicious of everybody, and his idea was the people are trying to poison me. And in fact, he starved to death. Because when his wife died, he wouldn't eat with food given by anybody else. So he starved to death. He was very paranoid that way. But he had only one friend, Einstein. Why am I saying this? So, by the way, I went to see the place when I read the book. And it was closed for summer, so luckily we were able to get in because the scholars were away. Institute of Advanced Studies in Princeton. And it's very interesting. On the corridors you see the history of that institute, how it was founded. The story is that the donors who were rich Jewish people, after the Great Depression, somehow their wealth was intact after the Great Depression. So they wanted to do something, use that wealth for furthering the purposes of higher education. So they made a big endowment and donated to that institute. And the story, I don't know how true it is, but I read and the donor said to the president of the institute that get the best people here and they'll have no responsibilities. Like, they don't have to teach or publish. Just, they'll be here, we'll pay them money, that's it. And let them do whatever they want. But the people at that level, they are not going to waste their time, right? So who are you going to get who is the donor himself was not an academician of that level. So he said, who is the greatest scientist in the world? The greatest scientist in the world is Albert Einstein. Get him. At that time Princeton was not so well known. And the director said, why would he come here? How can I get Einstein? Try. Alright, I'll try. And amazingly, at that time Einstein was trying to escape from Europe because of Hitler. So he was actually looking for some way out. And when he got this offer, he said, okay, I will come. But I have a family and all of these things, and I need so much salary. And when this was reported to the donor that but he'll come, but Professor Einstein wants so much salary, it seems the donor said multiply it by 3 and tell him to come into 3. And then he said, okay, Einstein. Now who is the greatest mathematician in the world? He said, Gödel, get him here. And he also was trying to escape, thanks to Hitler. Many of them came here. So he also came here, and that's how they came. And whatever money they wanted, the donor gave more than that. And that's why the other professors in other departments, it seems they were jealous of it. They used to call it Institute of Advanced Studies, IAS. They used to call it Institute of Advanced Salary. Institute of Advanced Salaries. Anyway, why I'm saying this is, there was a book recently called on Gödel's theorem by this journalist. I forget her name. Anyhow, in the introduction she points out, look at the 3 greatest discoveries of science in the 20th century. Einstein's theory of relativity, Heisenberg's uncertainty theorem, uncertainty principle, and Gödel's incompleteness theorem, incompleteness. Now when I read that, it's amazing. Look at the 3 terms. Uncertainty, relativity, uncertainty, incompleteness. These are exactly the terms for Maya. Relativity, incompleteness, uncertainty. Not only that, her name is Rebecca Goldstein. She is the one who wrote the book. In the introduction she points out, it's interesting because in 19th century, if you had asked scientists, what would you expect science to be in 20th century? It was a time of great positivism regarding science. That everything is going to be solved. We are on the right track, everything will be solved within 50 years, 100 years. Science, mathematics, everywhere. So they would have expected that yes, in the future we are going to have not relativity but absoluteness, absolute truth. Not uncertainty but certainty. Not incompleteness but completeness. In fact, there was a program for completion of mathematics as a perfect system. And yet what turned out? What turned up in 20th century? Relativity, uncertainty, incompleteness. So here he says, if you are going to speak of the world, prapancho yadi vaktavya sopi shabda vivarjita, even the world of appearance, that also escapes any kind of explanation. So really speaking, are you going to speak about the world? You'd still be telling a lie. Are you going to speak about Brahman? That cannot be spoken about. That is real silence. Knowing that itself is real silence. Not just not speaking. You can go on speaking for the purpose of transactions daily. So real silence is knowing the nature of reality. Iti va tad bhavet maunam. This is real silence. Sahaja sangitam. This is natural silence. Not trying to not speak. You may still speak, but it's still internally silent. There was a sadhu, I never met him, I heard about him. He was called Mauni Baba, the silent Swami. He used to speak a lot. But his claim was, I'm internally silent. Then he said, this is real silence. And what about not speaking, the vow of silence? Gira maunam to balanam, that's for children. He says, the vow of silence, not speaking with your tongue, that is silence for practice for children. One Swami put it this way. So isn't it useful? He says it's useful as a preliminary tool. It's useful like if you're trying to teach a class and they're little kids and they're all screaming and running around and you say, quiet! Keep quiet, sit down, quiet! That's exactly what is the vow of silence for the mind. A preliminary thing to quieten down the mind. Don't speak, keep quiet. One Swami was teaching meditation. He sounded more like a drill instructor. In Hindi he said, I'll translate. In Hindi he said, Hilo mat, bolo mat, socho mat. Don't move. So everybody's like, oops. Don't speak. Don't think. Don't move, don't speak, don't think. The psychology is right. It's only that the instructions are barked out that way. Don't move, don't speak, don't think. The simply not speaking is a silence. That is a practice for children, he says. Balanam Brahmavadibi. Okay, next 110. Space. What is space according to Yogi? There are certain spaces there in the yoga, Hatha Yoga Pradipika and others, this is mentioned. Where do you get solitude? You're left to yourself. If too many people around, you cannot meditate. Difficult. So some kind of solitude. There are other descriptions. It must not be noisy. If it is very windy, for example, I've seen in Himalayas extraordinary desolation, ice and rock and snow, but still it's not a peaceful place. There's a roaring wind all throughout. You can't meditate there unless you are deep in a cave. There's some places. Although sometimes I've noticed, for example, roaring water going past, the Ganga flowing past, after some time you filter it out, you don't hear it anymore. Where there are insects, you won't know here, but those of us from India, we know mosquito. One mosquito can ruin your meditation. Swami Vivekananda, there's a description. Swami Vivekananda in Kashipur sitting for meditation, and his face is black with mosquitoes. He doesn't feel it. He's turned inwards completely, does not feel what is happening to the body. He'll feel it when he comes out of it. But for us, even one mosquito is enough to ruin your concentration. It'll be like a battle. That's why the mosquito nets, many people here in America, they don't know what a mosquito net is. It's an essential thing for survival and for meditation. Just to meditate and put the mosquito net down, and then inside that you meditate. What else? There are descriptions. See, they're mostly meant for begging monks. So a place where food is readily available, that people will give food to you. So like that, the description is there of a proper place for meditation. It should be in a pilgrim place or a place close to a pilgrim place. Why? Because long years, decades, centuries of people praying, meditating, worshipping there, it creates a vibration. There's no doubt about it. I myself had this experience. Once I went to a fantastic place. A friend, another monk, had told me. So it's a log cabin in the middle of 3 rivers. It's like a triangle of land cut off by 3 rivers. One is the Ganga and 2 are mountain rivers flowing down from the... So, fantastic. I mean, I still remember that was my first time in the high mountains. I really had not seen snow like you have here. I went at a time when the snows had melted. So a bus dropped me off and it was getting dark by the time. So I had to quickly reach the place where the cabin is. And there was a little river, not river, it was like a little tiny stream flowing across the road. I thought, what is this? No problem. I took off my sandals and I walked across it, not slipped. I went into it, immediately my legs froze, my feet froze. It's so cold, my feet became numb completely. So, not froze exactly, but numb completely. Anyway, now the thing is, it is a fantastic place, one of the most beautiful places I have seen. Solitude, nobody's around, and the natural scenery is fantastic, extraordinarily beautiful. But one thing I noticed was that inner atmosphere is not there. What I felt in Belur Mutt, for example, the main monastery in Calcutta, where thousands of people gather. It's hot and muggy and thousands of people. But there's a solid, unmistakable something in the atmosphere. What you feel in Banaras, for example, in the little dirty lanes there near the temple, it's vibrant with spirituality. What you feel in Jagannath, Puri Jagannath, in the great Vaishnava temples or Shaiva temples in the south, you go in there immediately. It's like frozen spirituality there. It's like solid there. Vrindavan is another place. So these are Vrindavan. You can feel it immediately. The moment you cross from, say, you're going from Mathura. The moment you cross into the area of Vrindavan, you feel a complete shift in the atmosphere. It's there. Golden Temple, I've never been there, but you can feel it, yes. So these places where people have practiced spirituality for centuries together, you cannot deny it, you feel it. So that is another criterion for a good place to be. So now he is saying, so that is the yogic definition of a place for meditation. He says, Yasmad Vachu, no, this is 110. But what is the Advaitic definition of a place? 110. Adavante cha madhye cha jano yasminna vidyate yenedam satatam vyaptam sadesho vijana smritaha. If you read the original Sanskrit, you get like goosebumps. That is space, that is solitude, where neither in the beginning, nor in the middle, nor in the end, there is nobody there. It is completely solitary, and yet it is pervaded by consciousness and consciousness alone. What is that place? It is consciousness, it's not a place. It is awareness. There is no person there. There is no individual there. It has been alone from eternity to eternity. That alone exists. That is the great aloneness. A Christian mystic said very beautifully that spirituality is the flight of the alone to the alone. Alone with small a, alone with capital A. That is real solitude. That is the place. It means Brahman basically. It does not mean a particular place. Solitude, not that it's related. Funny thing I remembered. Many years ago when I was teaching in one of our schools in the Ramakrishna mission in Deoghar. So we had this I was teaching, so the little kids, we teach them, school. So we had this system where if a teacher is absent, I as a monk would teach, there were other monks who were teaching, and there were teachers who were lay teachers, like paid employees. So if a teacher is absent, what happens? We used to call it an arrangement class, like a substitute teacher, you go in there. So there is one teacher who is actually a Bengali teacher, but a very funny gentleman and a very dedicated devotee. He had supreme confidence. So whatever class it is, he is ready to substitute. And not only that, he is not going to teach Bengali, he is going to teach that subject. Whatever it is, it could be physics, it could be computers, it could be Sanskrit, whatever it is. Not that he knows anything about those things. So it was always hilarious to watch him teach those subjects. Once the English teacher for class 7 or something was absent, and he said, I'll substitute. What are you going to teach? English poetry. So we were sitting in the teacher's common room, and in the middle of the class, this gentleman came running down from the classroom, sort of covered with chalk dust, with a cloud of chalk dust around him, and he rushed. We said, what happened? Later. He rushed to the books cabinet and looked at something, and then he ran back again. We are all sitting there, we are bemused. What happened? And later when he came back looking exhausted, I said, what happened? Well, I was teaching English poetry. The Solitary Reaper, Wordsworth, I think? Yes. So there was the word solitude. And one of the boys stood up and said, Sir, what is solitude? What does it mean? And I thought, I have heard of altitude and latitude, but this solitude is not something I've heard of. I said, good question, keep standing. And then I ran down and looked at the English Bengali dictionary, and Nirjan, solitude. And then I went back and told him. So that is a solitary place. It says, Vijana Smritaha, that is called a solitary place, where there is nobody and nothing. There is only that one reality which you are. Similarly, time. In yoga, there auspicious times are there. These yogis know these are particular times you can meditate well. So in a general idea is Brahma Muhurta, 4 a.m. in the morning. But there are other times also. In Puri it's afternoon, I think. Swami Brahmananda said. In Banaras it's in the middle of the night, or Vrindavan in the middle of the night or something like that. So there are different times. There's a beautiful story in Vrindavan, the place where Radha and Krishna, the Leela with the gopis, Nidhuvan. If you go there, you will, it's not very impressive at all. It's just a little bunch of stunted trees enclosed. The city is all around it now. But anyway, they don't allow anybody to stay there at night. They say that it's an eternal play between Radha, Krishna and the gopis, so it's visible to sadhakas, those who are devotees. They can actually see it at night, but if you see it, you're going to die. Yeah, you're going to die. So you won't survive the night. So the ecstasy is so much that the body passes away or something like that. So you're not allowed to stay in that place after sunset. Anyway, so there are places, in different places there are different times which are very suitable for meditation. Meditation works very well in those places. There are times which are not suitable for meditation. So we're going to say that, oh, alright, let me sleep, the 4 a.m. is too early for me. I'm going to get up well rested and have a nice breakfast and read the morning papers. Then at 11 o'clock, after all, I'm a monk, my business is meditation. When people go to office, I'll go and meditate. It will not work. When the whole world is busy and awake and active, something happens in the mental atmosphere, you can't meditate. You try to do that, you're well rested. There was one Swami, he joined the order in Sargachi, where Swami Akhandanandaji, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, he was in Sargachi, and this Swami, who later became a very well-known Swami, he joined. He was a novice. So there's a story about his early days. I think at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock he went to the temple to meditate, and Swami Akhandananda, from a distance, he's saying, go there to the temple, that Brahmachari is polluting the temple. Tell him to come out and water the plants, do some work. Because he's sitting at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the temple, and what he's thinking, Akhandanji knows from a distance. He can see his mind. That is not the time to meditate. It will not work if you try. Yes, somebody who's deeply meditating throughout the night, early morning, he can pass the whole day in meditation also. That's different. Okay. That is time, auspicious time for meditation. So early morning, late in the night, depending on a particular situation. But what is in Vedanta, what is time? Now you've got the hang of it. You'll see, definitely he's going to say Brahman. Everything is Brahman for him. So let's see, 111. Kalanat sarvabhutanam brahmadinam nimeshata kala shabdena nirdishto hyakandananda kodvayaha. What is kala? In time things are born, they exist and they die. So that from which in time Brahma, the creator of the world, is born, and everything else born after Brahma exists and then passes away. That is what is meant by time. What is that? That is Brahman, awareness. Difference between Brahma and Brahman should be clear. Brahma is the God in Hinduism who is responsible for creation of the world. The word used in English would be, there's a word, demiurge, D-E-M-I-U-R-G-E, demiurge. The one who is a divine being who is behind the creation of everything. Something lower than God, lower than Brahman. But Brahman is that in which everything appears and disappears. And so that is the real meaning of time. Even time is within Brahman, is an appearance in Brahman. Brahman is not in time. So whenever we say Brahman is eternal, moment we think eternal, we think that lasting throughout, past, present and future, that is eternal. That's a good way of understanding, but that's not the deeper understanding. The deeper understanding is Brahman transcends time. Past, present and future are appearing and disappearing in Brahman. Not that Brahman is something that exists in past, present and future. With respect to time, we say Brahman is eternal. Otherwise people may think, so it's not eternal, is it born and dying? No. To dispel that notion, we say eternal. With respect to space, we say all pervading. But that we are already accepting space. Really, that is also not true. Space is in Brahman or is an appearance in Brahman. It's not that Brahman is, there is space and Brahman is there in space, like this room and incense fills up this room, not like that. Brahman does not fill up the universe like incense, no. Rather, space appears in Brahman. Then Asana, sitting. What is yogic sitting? You say, I have to learn sitting also. Yes, there's a lot to learn for sitting. You have to learn sitting, you have to learn breathing. But I am breathing, not properly. BKS Iyengar, when he came here for the first time to teach yoga, he said most of the Westerners, people, and it's true for Indians nowadays also, people who walked into the yoga studio, he said they were hardly breathing at all. No wonder people are sick and tense and anxious. They're using only a part of their lung capacity. Very few of us take full breaths in a day. So breathing also you have to learn. Anyway, sitting. Now it's sitting. Asana. Sitting is that where to meditate you must sit straight, relaxed, and yet be alert. There are postures in which you'll feel sleepy. There are postures when you feel alert. So the posture, the proper way of sitting, that is asana. Basically in Yoga Sutras, asana is, in Hatha Yoga there are many postures. But in the Yoga Sutra, asana is that which is conducive for meditation. So basically where you can sit straight effortlessly for a long period of time. Sit straight effortlessly for a long period of time.
Since I have pain in my knee,
yes, you cannot.
I can fold my leg and rest.
That's why I'm saying Advaitic meditation is better. By the way, here I want to add something. A gentleman asked me, I have back pain if I can't sit for long. Look at the beauty of the Advaitic approach. In the yogic approach, you must sit and focus on meditation, what you are trying to meditate upon. If there is back pain, what will happen? The mind will go to that pain. It's very difficult to take the mind away and focus it on God or whatever you're trying to meditate on. Isn't it? So that becomes a struggle. And it's not a struggle you can win. Pain, if it is continuous, as it is difficult to concentrate the mind on God, on your object of meditation. On top of that, if the body is hurting continuously, very difficult. Whereas, what does the Advaitic approach? Whatever arises, note that it is arising in consciousness. Suppose there's pain. Very good. I'm not saying that pain is good, but all these things, like pain for example, there's pain in the back. Now what will I do in Advaitic meditation? Are you aware of the pain? Of course, it's hurting. Very good. If you're aware of the pain, note that the pain is appearing in consciousness, is experienced in consciousness, is fading away in consciousness, is coming back in consciousness. Use the pain to notice consciousness. Normally we are using consciousness to notice the pain. The example given is, if I show you this, what is this? It's a book. But actually it's light reflected of the book. You are seeing the book plus light. Without the light you cannot see the book. Similarly, everything that we experience in the world, everything, all experiences, external and internal, everything is in the light of consciousness. Just as seeing anything, you can become aware of the light in which it is shining. Can you not? Book, but light, be aware. Hand, but light, be aware of the light. You can use, whenever you see something, you can recognize that it is in light or shining in light. Otherwise you can't see. Similarly, whenever we experience anything, definitely it is shining in consciousness. It could be a pain also. You can use the pain to pivot to consciousness. Yeah. Pivot is a good word. The pain will be there, but now your attention is shifted to attention itself, to awareness itself. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the great advantage of Advaitic meditation. What happens in Advaitic meditation is afflictions, distractions, they are all turned to your advantage. Whereas if there is an affliction or a distraction in the yogic path, you have to fight against it to bring your attention back to your point of focus. So this is the difference. Yes, it does. It works. It immediately opens up a gap between you and the pain. A psychological gap. I am in pain, it's hurting. I am the awareness in which the hurt is appearing. In Upadesha Sahasri, when this technique is explained by Shankaracharya to the disciple asks a question. That suppose my hand is burnt by fire, suppose. I am the witness of the fire. I am the witness. I am the consciousness in which an experience is taking place. I understand what you are saying, O Shankaracharya. But it hurts. Now Shankaracharya says that, alright, it hurts. Isn't that hurt, the pain, isn't it also an object in consciousness? Isn't it a fact?
Yes.
What good does it do? Will the pain go away? Wait a minute. Take it slow. That when you recognize it's an object, a distance opens up between you and the object, psychologically. And the pain is less also. Now don't jump to that conclusion. Oh, so this is a great painkiller. The Advaita Vedanta is a great painkiller. In one sense, yes. In another sense, that's not the point. That's not the point. You can use it. Any kind of thing. A distraction. That sound? Now you focus on the sound. It is clearly in my awareness. Back to the awareness itself. Whereas if I am doing a yogic meditation, suppose if I am doing Om Namah Shivaya, and the sound comes, oh, what is that? Let me shut the window, and that is the problem. But I've already told you that a classic example, Swami Turiyanandaji, when the operation was done once on his finger, there was a lancing of a thing in the finger. That story I told earlier also. It's well known that when they operated, he said, I don't need anesthesia, and the doctor said, it's going to hurt a lot, lancing this. He said, alright, tell me when you're cutting. Before he did that, he told the Swami, and Swami Turiyananda just sat in absolute, he was not in meditation. This is important. The yogi, an accomplished yogi, say like Vivekananda, he can sit in meditation, completely turn his mind away from the mosquitoes there. He's absorbed inside. I went to Thousand Island Park recently. There's a place, a Vivekananda rock, where Swami Vivekananda one day went out for a walk in St. Lawrence River, Thousand Island Park, and there was a oak tree. And he sat under it, and he said, today we will be like Buddha under the bo tree. And the lady who was walking, two ladies had accompanied him. She said he sat down for meditation and was a bronze statue immediately. And then a thunderstorm came. He was not even aware of the thunderstorm. And this lady held an umbrella over him as far as she could. So that place is now called the Vivekananda Rock. It's you can go there. There's a plaque over there. You can become so absorbed in meditation, it requires a master yogi to do that. You will not be aware of any problems outside also. That's one method, but that's not the yogic, that's not the Advaitic method. The Advaitic method, when Turiyanandaji sits, he is not in samadhi. He is smiling and talking and aware of everything, including the cutting going on. But it seems he is not in pain. Yes.
Swamiji, the most graphic example of what I heard in being absorbed in meditation is one Buddhist monk self-immolated himself. I don't know if you heard that, to protest against the government. And there's a picture of him. He's sitting in lotus asana, and for 7-8 minutes he was actually burning. They poured kerosene on him and they burned him on the street. And he was burning. 7-8 minutes he was just sitting, and after 8 minutes he just fell back. And they, just took him. Took his body. So it was a very well-known incident in 1980s. They have a picture of that guy.
Yeah, it's an iconic picture.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
I was just wondering, this reflected consciousness, how this plays in this?
Okay, but before that, let me complete the story of Turiyanandaji. So he was sitting like that, not affected by the pain at all. And next day when the doctor, they were amazed by it. And the doctor came to change the dressing. So he opened the dressing, was changing the dressing, and Turiyanandaji shouted in pain. And the doctor was amazed. He said, I know this hurts, Swami, but yesterday it would have hurt much more. And you're relaxed. And today you shouted in pain. And Turiyanandaji said to him, you should tell me when you're doing that. I would remove my mind immediately from it. I suspect he was using the Vedantic approach to it. And there's another description of Abhedanandaji, Swami Abhedananda. That's a very graphic description. When he was studying Vedanta, yeah, he's there. Turiyanandaji, Abhedanandaji, they're all here, I think. That is Abhedanandaji. Yeah. and Turyanandaji is here. So, by the way, that's a Photoshop picture. Don't take it as authentic. The Turyanandaji and Avedanji there. Avedanji, he was studying Vedanta at Kailash Mat, one of the places for teaching Vedanta. It's in Rishikesh. Even now they have an oil painting of Avedanji in their thing. So that's the place for traditional monks to learn Vedanta. And there was a great teacher of Vedanta at that time, I think Dhanraj Giri, under whom Avedanji studied Vedanta. And later, he writes in his autobiography, that I understood, this is very close to what we are doing. I got clarity and complete conviction that I am this awareness, consciousness. But I wanted to test it. Under great suffering, will this clarity and conviction remain? Will I be able to transcend suffering? Transcend suffering is not wiping out suffering. Transcend means I am here, but I am not affected by it. I'm right here, but I'm not affected by it. One is wiping out suffering, so I take a painkiller. I don't feel the pain anymore. I feel the pain and yet I'm not affected by it. That is transcending. So will I be able to do that? And so he prayed for a disease. He actually prayed. And on the same day, he was hit by 3 terrible diseases. I think he got malaria, he got blood dysentery, and one more thing. On the same day, and a very high fever or something. And he was completely late. See, the body became very weak. He was completely flat on the ground with weakness, and see, that is a yogic distraction. Let it be. No problem. Let it be. I will use Advaita to become aware of awareness. So he was completely laid down, and his description is amazing. His description, he says, I could not move. I became so weak. I lay down on the bed, suffering throughout the day. I could not even go out to beg for my food, go to the class. Nothing I could do. And after some time, my mind also became delirious. I couldn't think straight. See, that is an important thing. It shows it's not an intellectual thing dependent on the intellect, on thinking. Because it seems intellectual. Suppose you say I can't think right. Suppose I get amnesia. Suppose I get Parkinson's. Or then will I be able to do all this? He says yes. I saw at that time when the mind is delirious. I can't even think straight. I can't remember clearly. Mind is delirious. At that time also, clearly I was this awareness separate from body and mind. And when I saw this, even in that state, such a thrill took possession of me, he writes. That it works absolutely unfazed by what was happening at the level of the body, what was happening at the level of the mind. But the thing is, he would have died there, and body would have died. Luckily, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who was wandering there, he came at that time. Sri Ramakrishna's play, I think. He came and he found Avedananda in that state, and he nursed him back to health, sent him back to Baranagar and all. So he survived. But the experiment was performed,
Swami, I think it was his reflex, I think he developed a reflex that, anything happening to my body is not actually happening to me, because you need your intellect to kind of deflect the things away from the...
True, but it becomes such a reality.
Reflex, almost like a reflex that you
it becomes natural to you.
Right.
Yeah. So these 15 steps are what makes it natural. You were asking about a question? You had, did you?
The question was in this how the reflected consciousness works in this
Jidabhasa. Yeah. The model is this: physical body, subtle body. In the subtle body, consciousness is reflected. That reflection is called Jidabhasa. There are 2 theories. There is a reflection theory, Bimba Pratibimba, that is called Pratibimba Vada. And there is a limitation theory, which is called Avacheda Vada. Whatever you take, consciousness seems to be limited through the mind, channeled through the mind, let us say. That's what we are feeling right now. This awareness we are feeling is not the Atman itself. It is consciousness through the mind. That is called reflected consciousness. It works. You have a specific question you have?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead,
it works like this. Normally, how it works and how it what is its role in Brahma Jnana, enlightenment. Normally, how it works is this. Imagine this room in darkness. and daylight outside. Now, if you take a shiny metal plate, like a thali, a metal plate, and you use, children play that game sometimes. They focus sunlight and flash light upon you like a mirror. If you focus the sunlight into the room, a beam of reflected light will go wherever you focus the plate on, and it will light up these different parts of the room. So whatever you want to see will be lit up in the beam of reflected light. Okay, exactly like that. In the place of the sun, put the Atman, the self, pure consciousness. In the place of the steel plate, put the mind. In that steel plate, you will see a shiny little sun. That shiny little sun, there you put the reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa. And seeing things, this room is like the world. So seeing things in the room is like using that reflected consciousness, the beam of that consciousness. That beam rides on our senses. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. It's that beam of reflected light which reveals things in the world, but it reveals things specifically. As you focus the plate, that particular object will be revealed. Similarly, as we use our senses, you see, right now you are focusing your hearing upon me, not upon that. You are focusing on hearing upon me. So what happens is that consciousness, reflected consciousness, is there, illumining the mind. The mind is being focused through the ears on what I am saying, and that is taken to the mind. In the mind there is a vritti. Vritti means a movement in the mind about my speech, and those words are there in the mind, and they are being illumined by the Chidabhasa, the reflected consciousness in the mind. That's what's happening in our day-to-day life. Now, what is illumination, Brahma-jnana, enlightenment? What happens then? What role does the reflected consciousness play? What happens then is like this. Suppose now I want to see the sun. To see the sun itself, I have to turn around towards the sun. And when I turn around, that means the plate is also turned around. So the sunlight falls on the plate, and the reflected sun again sends a beam of light back to the original sun. But will I say that reflected beam of light is illumining the sun? That's crazy. The sun is shining forth with 1 billion times more light than the little pencil of light from your plate. Not only that, little pencil of light also belongs to the sun itself. You don't need it to see the sun, but you need to do one thing. You need to turn around towards the sun. If you turn towards this dark room, you will not see the sun behind. You will use its light to see this room. But to see the sun, you must turn away from this world. That's what the Upanishad says. Paranchi ghani vyatrinat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman. Upanishad says that our senses have been turned outwards. So that reflected consciousness in the mind is flowing outwards. That means it reflects, it illumines the world. Tasmat parang, parak means external. External, not only external to the body. Even mind is external. External to what? To Atman. The mind is revealed. My own thoughts, desires, these are revealed. Next, the senses and the body are revealed. Next, the world of sight and sound and smell and touch, all of these are revealed. Because the senses flow outwards and consciousness is focused outwards. Then what do you do? Those who want illumination, those who want to see the sun, you turn around. In spiritual life, what do you do? Turn inward. Kaschid dhira avritta chakshur amritattvamichan pratyagatmanamaikshat. Some dhira means literally a hero, a person who is very patient, who is disciplined. Basically these qualifications we have in Vedanta. Realizes the self within, pratyagatma, inner self, the sun. Realizes it. How? Avritta chakshu literally means covering the eyes. Doesn't mean like this. It means turning away from the experience of the world outside, turning inwards. Why would he want to do that? Amritatvamichan, desiring immortality. So that is the way it works. I heard a very beautiful explanation of this from a monk in Haridwar. Follow this example, it's very beautiful. Exactly how it functions. He said, the well-known example of the lunar eclipse. No, solar eclipse. What happens is that it works like this. At night, the world is covered in darkness, and the moonlight illumines the world. But it's not moonlight; it's the light of the sun reflected from the moon. So the sunlight reflected from the moon illumines the world in darkness. The world is here; it stands for the world, what we see here. The moon stands for the mind, and the sun stands for Atman, pure consciousness. Don't extend the example too far, that the world is a planet, so the mind is another planet, like a moon, and the sun, the consciousness is like a star there. No, it's just an example. Take this much only. The light of the sun reflected from the moon is what we call moonlight, and it reveals the world to us in darkness, at night. Exactly like that, pure consciousness reflected of the mind reveals our world to us, reveals a world of sight and sound and smell and taste and touch and thought and desire and memory and ego and identity and all of that, and Vedanta. All of that is revealed by moonlight, consciousness reflected from the mind. That is the usual way things are working, empirically. Now what is enlightenment? Brahma-jnana? He says, sometimes what happens is that the moon comes between the earth and the sun. And as a result, the light which is coming blazing forth from the sun falls on the moon but is reflected back to the sun. What happens? The earth passes into shadow. It is Amavasya. Earth passes into shadow. No moon at that time. Darkness. So we don't see the earth. But the light from the moon, reflected from the moon, goes back to the sun. In the same way, when the mind is completely turned inwards, focused on the Atman, it's the best way you can put it. It's still not absolutely accurate. Then what happens? You lose sight of the external world. Even the fact that you have a body, even the fact that there is a mind and thought and even personal identity, all of that passes into shadow. And the reality of what you are, that infinite existence, consciousness, bliss, shines forth. It's always shining forth, but it's now clear. That is, he said, that is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. What a beautiful example. There is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But that's the yogic path. What is the Vedantic path? The Vedantic path is, once you recognize that, even when the moon is illumining the earth at night, even when you are walking around talking and all that, you still know it is sunlight. It is pure consciousness which is doing all of this now. Even while you are in day-to-day activity also, it is illumination, it is Brahma-jnana, it is Jivan Mukti. That's Jivan Mukti. Okay, let us go ahead.
So that's the Chidabhas, Aham Vritti or Chidabhas? Right?
Yes, right. Okay, we still have time. Now, so what is the Vedantic idea of asana? 112. Sukhenaiva bhavedyasmin ajasram brahma chintanam asanam tadvijaniyat netarat sukhanashanam. That is asana, where you can dwell on the fact that you are Brahman. Endlessly, easily dwell on the fact that you are Brahman. Not a particular posture where you lock your body, Sukhanashanam, and you get aches on your knee, and you'll complain. I have knee pain, I have back pain. Don't worry about that. The Vedanta is very good. You can sit on a chair, you can relax, you can walk around. The thing is, are you aware of awareness itself? Another verse about asana. Did you have a question? Okay. Siddham yat sarva bhutadi vishwadhishtanam abhyayam yasmin siddha samavishta Tadvai siddhasanam viduhu. There's a particular kind of posture for meditation your yoga teacher can teach you. It's called siddhasana. It's a little easier than the lotus posture. It's like a half lotus posture. That is siddhasana from a yogic point of view. That's a particular posture for sitting. But what is siddhasana from Advaitic point of view? By now you know. He's going to say Brahman again. He has got only one point. All the 15 techniques basically comes back to that one point. So he says, actually, that which is the support of the entire universe, that is the asana. Normally asana means where I sit, where the entire universe sits. That is siddhasana. What is that? Brahman, earth. Where does the earth sit? In space. Where does space sit? In awareness. Oh, good. You are already well trained Advaitins. Most people would say, where does space sit? What does it mean? Where are you aware of space? In your awareness only. Ultimately, it's everything. There was a very beautiful section I read. It struck me a long time ago in a book on philosophy. There's this Indian student who is talking about, and a professor of philosophy. He was in Germany. I forget the exact context, but they were talking about the self being fundamental. The usual idea of the self is the universe is fundamental. In that there are living creatures. In that I am one of them, and I am this self. A tiny little thing in the vast universe. But the self is primary, and the universe is an appearance in the self. It's difficult to grasp. So this, in the introduction to that book, there it goes like this. This person was talking to his professor, and suddenly he says that, sir, what do you see in front of you? Why the lawn? And behind the lawn? Why the fence? And beyond the fence? The road? Beyond the road? Well, the mountains in the distance. And beyond the mountain? Beyond the mountain, the sky. And beyond the sky? And the professor sat still for a moment and he said, you're right, it is I. Where is the sky appearing? In you, the consciousness, basically. It seems a very contrary way of thinking, but it's for Vedanta it's very natural. So where the universe itself sits, where does the universe sit? In existence, in pure being. It says Siddha Asanam. Very interesting derivation is there. Siddham Asanam. Siddham means which is established, self-proved. Siddham means Chit, consciousness, which is always evident. Siddham means it is proved. What is self-proved all the time? Before anything else, before you prove anything else, consciousness reveals itself, and then you reveal anything else. So Siddham is consciousness, and Asanam is Sat, existence. So Siddhasanam is Sat and Chit. Or another meaning is Siddhanam Asanam, the seat on which the enlightened people sit. What is this? Where do the enlightened people sit? In Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, in that knowledge. I remember this monk. I used to learn Vedanta from him he was a wandering monk, very interesting Swami. In the recent times, he was one of the few regarded universally as a Jivan Mukta, enlightened while living. He passed away a few years ago. Somebody said to me, Swami, all the stories you tell about people, enlightened people, they're passed away. Tell us somebody who's living right now. Anyway, so one day, he had an operation for cancer. So the day he was released from the hospital, the next day, he came. We used to have question-answer sessions with him. Whatever we wanted to ask, we would ask him. So he would sit on a low cot. This was in Haridwar. So he came and sat down, and this was after a gap. So we were all there. Other monks were there, and the devotees were there. We'd ask questions. He sat down, and immediately we could see he was bare body, a little cloth over him. We could see his whole chest and belly was covered with a sheen of sweat. That means there was pain inside somewhere. And somebody said, Swami, don't bother, you just go and take rest. I mean, he's just been released from hospital for a procedure for cancer. Then the Swami said, no, let me tell you a story. The story is of this old woman who used to stay in a little village in Rajasthan, and she had a vegetable patch. It's mostly desert there. It's a vegetable patch, and she had, the birds would come to eat the vegetables, so she would. She had a. Yeah, you know the story. In India, you understand. They would use, no, not scarecrow. They use like thrown away, discarded tin. We used to say dalda tin box. You understand? They're like tin boxes.
Okay.
And discarded. And she would beat that. It makes a big racket, so the birds would fly away. Like a scarecrow, to drive away the birds. One day, an old camel came. There are camels in Rajasthan. Came and started eating the vegetables. And this lady, she goes and starts beating the tin, making that awful racket. And the camel looks at her, and of course the camel can speak. So the camel says to her that, "What are you doing, old woman? Don't you know I was a war camel?" The camels are used, in fact, they're used for battle. So on my back, so many war drums, which makes such an awesome sound. They used to be beaten, and I'm used to that. I'm a veteran of so many battles. In Hindi, this is more effective. मेरे पीठ पर कितने ही युद्ध के नगाड़े बज चुके हैं. Drums, war drums have been beaten on my back. मैं तेरा टीना से डरूंगा बुढ़िया. Am I going to be afraid of your little tin, the thing you're beating? Exactly like that. Then that Swami said, I am that on which universes are created and destroyed. Am I going to be afraid of a little stomach pain? No. So the class continued. But that's an attitude. And it's not rhetoric. It's born of an understanding that I am the awareness in which everything arises and disappears. That is Siddhasana. Alright. Then Mula Bandha. What is yogic Mula Bandha? Yogic Mula Bandha is, those who practice Hatha Yoga, there are certain locks. You lock there are muscles of the body which you lock, and it makes the asana and the pranayama more effective. One of those locks, there is Uddiyana Bandha, and there is Mula Bandha is one of those. It's a fundamental lock which you use for making the asanas more effective. Your yoga teacher can tell you about that. But that's not the point. What is the Advaitic Mula Bandha? You know easily. It's going to be Brahman. Yanmulam sarvabhutanam Yanmulam chitta bandhanam Mula bandha sada sevyo Yogyo sauraja yoginam. So, what is Mula bandha? That Mula means root. Literally, it's a root lock in Hatha Yoga. But in Advaita, that which is the root of all beings. What is the root of all beings? Brahman. Yeah. That which is the root of our mind. What is the root of mind? Consciousness. The root of all existence is Sat. Root of all awareness, of all thoughts and all is Chit. That one is Mula Bandha. And that is practice. The practice means you know yourself as that by Raja Yogi. And this confuses the issue a little bit. Advaita Vedanta, those who are on the path of knowledge, Shankaracharya calls them Raja Yogi, the royal yogis. Others are ordinary yogis, plebeians. This is a Raja Yogi. But Swami Vivekananda calls the Patanjali Yoga Raja Yoga. So remember, there's always it's a confused issue. Posture. Not only sit, but also how do you hold your body. See, sit straight and keep your body in alignment. The spine, the chest, the stomach and the hips in one line. Not in a rigid line, you can't do that. It's physiologically impossible. But straight, not slouching. If you slouch, you cannot think high thoughts. If you sit straight, you will feel alert. If you feel alert, you sit straight. If you feel positive, you sit straight. So it's connected. Posture is connected. That's why yogis insist on good posture. And it's also something you can hold for a long time if you sit properly. Swami Turiyananda, for example, rammed out straight. Even in his old age, before death, he would sit absolutely straight on the bed. Never slouch. But what is Advaitic posture? Let's see. Anganam samatam vidyat same brahmani linatam no no chainneva samanatvam rijutvam shushka vrikshavat. He says, what is posture in Advaita Vedanta? He says, it is being absorbed in Brahman, which is same everywhere. Sama means aligned, it also means same, homogeneous. Brahman is Sama, everywhere Brahman, at all times, in all places, in all beings, it is the same Brahman. Being established in that is posture. Otherwise, what about sitting straight? He says, otherwise, shushka vrikshavat. Otherwise, what is the point in sitting stiffly like a dried old tree? Shushka vriksha means dried stump of a tree. Let's sit straight, so what? So he's sort of poking fun. Let's do one more, two more actually, and then we'll stop. Next two are very interesting. One is drishti. Where do you focus your eyes? In yoga, this is important. Why is it important? Because a good deal, even modern neuroscience supports that, a good deal of our brain processing capacity is connected to our eyes. So what you're seeing, it takes up a lot of our cognitive capacity. That's why if you keep your eyes open and looking around, you can't meditate. Even, if you try to think deeply, what do people do? They close their eyes and try to think. When they try to appreciate music, for example, what do? You close your eyes. Anything. You have to take off that cognitive capacity from the visual organ and use that. More bandwidth is necessary. So you shift it to the other things. So you have to. This is very simple. Close your eyes. But the problem is, if you close your eyes, that's the message to the brain. When do you close your eyes? When you fall asleep. The message to the brain to become sleepy. Now what do? So the yogis devised. They have thought so much about it. How do you concentrate? You keep your eyes open, can't concentrate, distracted. Keep your eyes closed, fall asleep. Half open. Half open means, where do you look? Don't look straight out. Mind will be extroverted. Look, they say, at the tip of your nose. Tip of your nose. So that means not literally here, become cross-eyed. And there are discussions. Tip of the nose means what? This tip or this one? So if you look here, you'll become cross-eyed very soon. Now, basically it means look down this alignment so that you're looking somewhere here, not there, not eyes closed either. That is helpful for concentration. Actually, if you look at Vivekananda's picture, not this one. Swami, if you look at Swami Vivekananda's meditation posture, not this one. The where he's sitting for meditation with eyes closed, you will see eyes are half open actually. Eyes are half open and looking down here. It's a classic. For him, he's not practicing it. It's automatic for him. That's yogic. Now, what is Advaitic? Where do you keep your eyes on? By now you know. Okay, you've got the hang of it. But a very, very beautiful verse. Two interpretations of drishti. Where do you keep your eyes? Vision. Drishti means vision. Drishtim jnanamayim kritva pashyed brahmamayam jagat sa drishti paramodara nanasagravalokini. Make your drishti, vision, jnanamayam, a vision of knowledge. Whatever you see, then you don't have to fix your vision. Whatever you see Brahman. Pashyed brahmamayam jagat. See the world pervaded, flooded with the radiance of Brahman. How will you see? Not with these eyes. Whatever these eyes see, with the eye of knowledge, Shiva's third eye, with the eye of knowledge, see Brahman in every experience. Seeing Brahman in every experience is drishti. He says, this is paramodara. This is the most liberal, open, universal drishti. Nanasagravalokani, not looking at the tip of your nose. Where is this and where is staring at the tip of your nose? So he's always poking a little fun, mischievous towards the yogis. Another interpretation. Drashtri darshana drishyanam viramo yatra va bhavet drishtis tatraiva kartavya nanasagravalokini. In every act of knowledge, there is the knower, there is the object known, and there is the process of knowledge. So, Drashtri is the seer, the knower, Drishya is what is known, and Darshan is the process of seeing. So it could be seeing, it could be hearing, it could be smelling, touching, tasting, any kind of knowledge. You are the knower, there is something that you know, and there is the process of knowledge which is generated. All all three are superimposed. The underlying reality of all three underlying that is consciousness. In consciousness alone, all three are appearing, interacting and disappearing. So where the seer, seeing and the seen, where they fade away, that is real seeing. I'll repeat again. Drashtri, seer. Darshana, seeing. Drishya, the thing which is seen. Virama, where they subside, where they fade away, where they merge. Where do they merge? Into awareness itself. In awareness you are a knower. In your awareness there is something known. And in your awareness there is the process of knowing. Underlying all three right now is awareness itself. So that is real seeing. It says, Drishtis tatraiva kartavya. Keep your sight on that awareness, not on the tip of your nose. He says, Nana Sagra Lokini. So he is relentless. Now, pranayama. Pranayama is control of breath. The yogi's pranayama is that breathing has to be deep and even. You see, breathing is erratic and fast. Mind becomes excited. If mind is excited, you are angry, you see breathing changes immediately. Yeah. Angry, excited, disturbed, or sick, tired, you will find breathing is heavy and slow. When you are alert and concentrated, if you notice, breathing will be light and even and deep also. Deep means not gasping for breath, but a very sattvic kind of breathing. So the yogis, they know that mind and breath are connected. They know it's very difficult to control the mind. So they developed a very sophisticated set of breathing exercises called pranayama, control of prana. Very sophisticated, the range, it's a science in itself. There are books and books on it. So the fundamental procedure is there are three parts. One is breathing in, next is holding the breath, third is releasing the breath. So breathing is called puraka, holding the breath is called kumbhaka, and expelling the breath is called rechaka. And the standard approach is breathing in 4 counts. So maybe om, 4 counts, you're breathing in. Don't say it, you have to count it. If you say it, you can't breathe in properly. So 4 counts, breathe in, 16 counts, hold it, breathing in, hold it, release it. With the count, proper count. With this hand you are counting. So that is the standard yogic pranayama. We also do it before puja and all of that. Now what is Advaita pranayama? You already know. It must be Brahman. He says Advaita pranayama is first breathing out. Breathing out means seeing the falsity of the universe. Universe is false. That is breathing out. Then breathing in. That Brahman alone is real. That is breathing in. Then holding the breath. I am Brahman. Releasing the breath. The universe is an appearance. Breathing in. Brahman is real. Holding the breath. I am that Brahman. And this is not just a technique in a book. Actually this works. There is a beautiful story. Swami Shraddhananda, who was here in Sacramento. When he was a young monk, it's in his reminiscences, he was in Belur Mutt. One of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna was Swami Subodhananda. I wonder if he's there.
Yeah, he's there.
Where?
In the city.
Oh, sitting next to below Swami Brahmananda. Yes. So he was very childlike. It's called Khoka. Khoka means little boy. So it's called Khoka Maharaj. Very, very simple, very childlike. There are many interesting stories about him, and of course an enlightened master. Now in Belur Mutt, in the main monastery, he used to sit next to, in the second floor, Swami Vivekananda's room is there. He used to sit there on the veranda facing the Ganga. On the other side is Calcutta, the city of Calcutta. He would sit there and read some books. One of his favorite books was Adhyatma Ramayana and all of that. So one day, Shraddhanandaji, he saw Subodhanji sitting there, reading something, looking up and laughing, and then again reading something and looking up and laughing. So Shraddhanji was curious. He went up to Subodhanandaji and asked, Swami, can I ask you, what are you reading and what are you seeing and why are you laughing? So he said, I am reading, this is a book on Vedanta. It says Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. When it says Brahma Satyam, when it says Jagat Mithya, I look up and I see heaps of ashes. Chair Pahad. Mountains of ashes. Everything is just ash. Ashes means valueless. It's just name and form. And I laugh. And I read the book. Book says Brahma Satyam. Brahman alone is real. And I look up and I see that very thing which you are seeing as heaps of ashes. That very thing is, everything is pervaded by Thakur. Sri Ramakrishna is everything. And so I am laughing. He alternates the vision. It's the same thing. Snake, false. As a rope, real. Very interesting thing. Normally we think that who can say that the world is real? We think worldly people say the world is real. Jnani will say world is false. Ramana Maharshi says only the Jnani can say world is real. Why? The person here, he knows what reality is. And he knows for the Jnani only the reality exists. There's no such, what you call the world is that reality. Who says the world is false? Is the person like us who is practicing Advaita. World false, Brahman is real. But for the Jnani, Brahman alone exists. Anyhow, both mean the same thing. The same Calcutta and Ganga which he is seeing, from Jagat Mithya point of view, he says Chair Pahad, Chair Dipi. Piles of ashes, valueless. And from Brahma Satyam point of view, it is none other than Sri Ramakrishna himself, he says. What a beautiful harmony of knowledge and bhakti also. So let us read 119 and 20. I am skipping 118. So he has given actually two views of pranayama. Nishedhanam prapanchasya rechakakhya samiranaha brahmevasmiti ya vritti purako vayuririta tata tadvritti naischalyam kumbhaka prana sanyama ayam chapi prabuddhanam ajnanam grana pidanam. So a little difference is here. He says nishedhanam prapanchasya, looking at the negation of the universe. That means realizing the falsity of the universe. Remember, we have read Advaita does not deny that you experience the universe. Experience is not denied by Advaita. The reality of the universe is denied by Advaita. Nobody denies that you saw a dream, but you say that it was a dream. Exactly like that. So prapancha, this is called exhalation, exhaling the breath. I am Brahman. That is called inhalation. Brahman is the reality and I am that Brahman. And staying with that is called holding the breath, kumbhaka. This he says, this is the pranayama of the wise, prabuddhanam pranayama. What about the yogic pranayama? That's a ajnanam grana pidanam. For others it's torture of the nose. They're twisting the nose this way, that way. Torture of the nose. So a very beautiful idea. And it goes on. Yeah, you stop the breath like this, breathe in, stop with this. Okay, don't worry about that. That is yogic pranayama. This is more important. Nothing to do with the fingers. Nothing to do with the nose also. Nothing to do with breathing also. It's basically an insight into the falsity of the world, the reality of Brahman, and that you are Brahman. Alright, we will stop now. And no meditation practice now, because your mind will be blank if you practice meditation now. Let's have a conversation for a few minutes. If you have questions, I'll take up questions.
If you can please explain. In your introduction you said about the Vedic way of worship versus the modern day of worship. If you can explain to us what is the Vedic way of worship and how it has progressed through the ages.
Oh, that's a big question. What is the Vedic way of worship and what's the modern way of worship? Modern Hindu way of worship.
Yes.
The Vedic way was yajna. The Vedic way was that you offered offerings to God, and the fire was seen as the conduit through which your offerings were accepted by the various Vedic deities, and they were and the Vedic mantras were primary. When you do these rituals, the mantras have to be chanted in the proper way, and they were only chanted by the authorized priests who were trained in the Vedic mantra. So yajna, the Vedic sacrifice, was the model of worship in ancient times, in ancient Vedic times. Over time, so at that time, the place of worship would be the yajna shala, the place of conducting these sacrifices. Over time, what happened was, in the post-Buddhistic age, Hinduism became a Puranic Hinduism. Puranic Hinduism means the gods and goddesses mentioned in the Puranas. So all of them are nothing other than Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. Whether it is Devi, the Divine Mother, or Shiva, or Saraswati, or Vishnu, or the avatars in Vaishnava, Krishna and Rama and others. Now, all of worship became worship of that. That came in, in the first millennium. In the second millennium, this became even more pronounced as the Bhakti movement. So the Vedic ritualism faded out. By the end of the first millennium, it has faded. Even now, there are some traditional families which keep it alive, but it's very minimal. Even nowadays, what happens, you can see both of them. In Hinduism, nothing is completely discarded. I said, that you don't give away the old. You give it a place and keep it there. So in big pujas, for example, I've seen in East India in Durga Puja and other big pujas, one part of it will be a Vedic fire sacrifice, which was the central kind of worship in ancient times. Now it has become a secondary thing. Now the main worship is of Vishnu or Shiva or Durga. So that is the way Hinduism has changed over time.
So the Murti concept of worship and all this came after the 6th or the 7th?
Something like that, I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah, someone in the back, you wanted to ask a question. Just pass it down.
So Maharaj, a Vedic point of view, there is a one phenomena we all are familiar with, is when someone dies, the body is left here. Either Hindus burn it, some bury it, and all so on and so forth. So when people say that something goes, some puff goes in cloud or something, Vedic point of view, does anything leaves the body and goes anywhere?
Yes, Sukshma Sharira. So what is our model? I told you earlier, Sthula Sharira, physical body. Sukshma Sharira, subtle body. And remember, always related to your experience. Are you experiencing the physical body now?
Yes.
No? Some of you are having a bodiless experience. Yes, physical body. What is the subtle body? Thoughts, emotions, memories. Do you have thoughts, emotions, memories? Yes, that's the subtle body. So that leaves at the time of the death of the physical body. The physical body can no longer support the subtle body. So Sukshma Sharira and also Karana Sharira, both of them leave the physical body. This is, in English you call it transmigration. So it goes Janmantara. It goes to other worlds and finally takes birth in other physical bodies. Atma remains as it is in Advaita idea. In Vishishta Advaita or Dvaita, the Atma also travels with it. It's called the Jivatma. In Dvaita, Jivatma.
So Maharaj, one related question. So does Karan Sharir and Sukshma Sharir, is there any physical aspect to it? Where does it go? Like
what do you mean by physical? Look at the words I've used. Physical, subtle, causal. Sthula, Sukshma and Karana. So that's why the problem is, when people try to, if there is a subtle body leaving the body, we should be able to detect it. I don't disagree. Yogis can detect it. Mystics can see somebody leaving the body. But why can't you detect it by science? What are you trying to detect in science? A physical thing. The physical thing is the physical body. Right? Even in our, say, computer, suppose your laptop dies. I hope it won't die, but suppose it dies. And then what happens to the data? It is uploaded to the cloud. When you try to see where is the data going physically, what will you see? Nothing. You can't see. It's not a physical thing which has been taken out. So, according to Vedanta, what goes at the time of death is Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha. They leave the physical body and they go on to, with the Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness in them, they'll sort of roll up into like a seed form, very tiny. not a physical thing. That's how the scriptures talk about it, and they go to other worlds. Again, from Advaita point of view, not interesting. They are all objects. Awareness, you are that awareness, does not matter whether subtle body is coming, going. For an enlightened person, what happens? When the physical body dies, what happens to the physical body? It goes back to nature. 5 elements goes back to nature. For an unenlightened person, subtle body travels. For an enlightened person, subtle body does not travel. Utkramana means transmigration, the subtle body leaving the physical body. For an enlightened person, there is no Utkramana. What happens? Subtle body also goes back to nature, because it's all provided by nature. And the enlightened person is Brahman, so there is no leaving the body for an enlightened person.
No leaving?
No. The body, you look horrified. No leave. She's thinking so that the person is not leaving the body.
Yeah?
What do you think happens? The enlightened person is already Brahman. Where will the enlightened person go? You are the infinite reality itself. So there is no different loka for you to travel to, different bodies. So that's why they say the cycle of birth and death comes to an end for the enlightened person. I'll tell you a story. I mentioned Swami Premeshanandaji, disciple of Holy Mother, whom Swami Suhitananda served. So how Swami Premeshananda passed away, I asked once. What happened? Yeah. So how Swami Premeshananda passed away, that story Swami Suhitananda told me, and it matches this question. What happens to an enlightened person at death? Death of what? Death of the body. As long as the prarabdha karma is there, past karma is there, the physical body will continue. For us also, for an enlightened person also. So as long as the physical body continues for an enlightened person, that person is called Jivan Mukta, enlightened while living. And it is a blessing to the whole world to have such a person. But when the physical body dies, prarabdha karma exhausted, physical body dies, what happens to that person? Where does he or she go? Nowhere. Because he is already Brahman. Already, by the time of enlightenment, the person has realized I am Brahman. What happens is the physical body falls apart, goes back to physical nature. The subtle body falls apart, goes back to subtle nature. Panchatanmada is a whole detailed description of this. Now what happened was, when Swami Premeshanji passed away, is there any video transmission of this going on or not? Just within us, okay. So he told me the story, Swami Suhitanji. Because Premeshanji was Holy Mother's disciple, and Swami Suhitananda served Swami Premeshananda for more than 10 years towards the end of his life. So before passing away, the Swami had asked Suhitanji that, do you want anything? Do you want to know anything? So he had asked a few questions, and he told me. He asked Premeshanandaji that, can you actually see Sri Ramakrishna? And Premeshanji said yes. When? All the time. Is it like a picture? He said, not like a picture, living. Okay. Next, I said, what else did you ask him? He said, I asked him, because he had said, you can ask me anything. I asked him, what is the mantra? Tell me the mantra which Holy Mother gave you, your Ishta mantra. Well, we wouldn't have thought of asking that. So I said, did he tell you? So he told me half of it and said, don't ask anymore. And of course he didn't tell me what the mantra was. Anyway. And the third thing which he asked was that Swami had seen when the monks die, that last moment, people, they take him to the ICU and cut this and put tubes and all of that. I don't want any of that to happen to you. I don't want to see that. So Premeshanji said, all right. Sometime later, the day he passed away, by the time he was already blind. He would, and Suhitanji used to feed him like a baby is fed. So that day the doctor had come to check Swami Premeshananda, and he came and he saw that today the Swami is doing quite well. And the doctor walked out, and Suhitanji told me the doctor was walking across the courtyard, left the room and walking across the courtyard. This was in Kashi, Banaras. And I was feeding Swami Premeshananda. I said, Maharaj, one more spoon, because his eyes were closed. And sometimes you would behave like a child, you had to coax him. Maharaj, open your mouth and put in one more. So he wasn't opening his mouth. So I said, taken one spoon, the next spoon he was not opening his mouth. I said, Maharaj, open your mouth once, twice. I thought something is wrong. And I put the spoon down and I rushed out and called the doctor who had just walked out, saying that today the Swami is alright. The doctor said, come and take a look. Came back, passed away. Gone. Now, Swami Sritananda said, I had a doubt. Everybody said he's an enlightened person, Brahmagyan. We hear about so many things at the time of death. You get visions of Sri Ramakrishna or something like that. And different kinds of experiences. This was like a clock is moving, the second hand of a clock. Tick, 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 and then it runs out and it stops. It's just like that. Nothing. No physical suffering, nothing happened. And no kind of spiritual, ecstasy, just like that, and then just gone. What is this? And so he went in Benares. The sadhus are not burnt. I mean, the bodies are, for sadhus, they are immersed in the Ganga. After all of that was performed, there was a great Vedanta scholar and Swami Vishwarupananda. He was there in Benares. He is the one who has translated the Brahma Sutras with Shankara Bhashya into Bengali, which you get in the Udbodhan publication. I think 3 or 4 volumes you get. Swami Vishwarupananda, the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Shankaracharya, 3-4 volumes. Great Vedanta scholar. He was alive at that time. So Swami Sritananda went to him with this question. Swami, I want to ask you something about, the great Swami passed away just a few days ago, but I was there. And I didn't see anything extraordinary. Just there, and I said, what happened? And he described. And this Swami became so excited. Just look at these sources in the Mundaka Upanishad, this place and that place. He pointed out. Exactly this is described. This is the sign of a Brahmagyani, one who is fully enlightened. Does not transmigrate, no utkramana. The subtle body leaving the physical body and going away, that doesn't happen to them. Because that person is not there anymore. The person is Brahman. Long time has been. What you see is an outer shell which fell apart. The person is one with infinity. Long ago has been like that. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you.
When Maharaj and Sri Raman Maharshi passed, he said that where would I go? His last word was that.
Yes, the Buddha. See, there were 14 questions. The great silence of the Buddha. Very interesting. He was silent for 14 questions. One of the questions was, where will the Buddha go after death? And his answer was, when he was pushed, he was silent on that. He did not give a direct answer. His answer was that when a flame which is burning is blown out, will you say it has gone to the north? And the disciple said no. Has it gone to the east or the west or the south, up or down? No. He just stops there. It doesn't go any further. Because Buddhism, it takes the negative approach, the neti-neti approach. This limited existence is blown out, but don't mistake it for nothingness. It's an infinity which is not a thing, which cannot be expressed in language. Alright. You had a question?
Swamiji, if you allow, I have actually 3 questions. I can ask them all at the same time.
Alright, ask them, let's see.
Okay. Swamiji, just related to what we were discussing, the question of ownership comes, like this is my Sukshma Sharira and I own this. But as a non-dualist, we practice that we don't own or claim ownership over anything.
Right.
So is this something like a non-dualist should look at, like if I'm at my death, where is my body gonna go, or my knowledge that I've accumulated, the skills that I have, or the sukshma, like the subtle body, where will it go? It shouldn't matter to a non-dualist because it was never his to begin with. It was attained during his lifetime, and obviously he's gonna lose it during this during the course of the lifetime. So that was one of my questions, observations. The second was I've read a lot about the Gita, one of the shlokas about seeing action and inaction, and seeing inaction and action. There are so many different interpretations of this. So I was just wondering, from a non-dualist perspective, what would be the highest interpretation of this? And my third question, which I'm forgetting.
Okay, I'll come back to you. So the first one, yes, I agree. But remember, Advaita has to be understood at 2 levels. One is Paramarthika, absolute. What is the absolute truth? Brahman is the only reality, world is an appearance, and I am Brahman. Relative truth. What is the relative truth? Here I am appearing as Swami Sarvapriyananda, here is the Brahman appearing as the world, there are people, there is work to be done, the whole world of practical relative, the appearance. In that appearance, say a movie has two aspects, the movie itself and the screen on which it plays. In the movie there is a plot and things are happening. In reality, from the perspective of the screen, nothing is happening. So two levels of truth that has to be held on to. So at this relative level, yes, there is a kind of ownership that I am this person and not that person. That's there. Then second, the action in inaction and inaction in action. I actually gave a talk about this. There was a conference on the Bhagavad Gita in 2013 in London, and it's the, what do you call it, ICCR, Indian Council of Cultural Relations. They organize programs in different foreign countries outside India to propagate Indian culture. So one was on Bhagavad Gita, and there were scholars from the West and the East. They gave talks, and I gave a talk on this verse. The verse is very interesting. It says, Karmanya karmaya pashet, akarmani cha karmaya. One who sees in work, who sees no work at all. And who sees in no work, sees work. That one sees truly. Now this is very strange. Advaita often uses paradoxical language because that reality which it wants to point to is beyond language. So one of the ways you can point to something beyond language, the language cannot point to it. So you can do it by using paradox. One way is negativity, not this. If you cannot say what it is, at least you can say what it is not. That is neti-neti. Another strategy is using paradox. Greater than the greatest, smaller than the smallest, further than the furthest, nearer than the nearest, faster, unmoving, it moves faster than all. Paradox, Ishopanishad, is not just saying it to sound cool. It actually has a very precise meaning, all of it. Now in Gita, Krishna says this to Arjuna. He says, a shloka before that he says, I will tell you secret of action and no action. The secret about work and no work. You might think, what is there to know about work? When you do something, that's work. When you don't do anything, sit quietly, that's no work. But he says, no. Karmano gati, gahana karmano gati. Deep runs the course of action. Work, action is something very profound, very difficult. Kavayo apyatra muhyati. Even the great sages are deluded here. So this secret, which even the great sages don't know, I'm going to tell you. So Arjuna, you can see he's all eager. He's got his MP3 recorder out. Yes, tell me. Then Krishna gives this very paradoxical statement. You know what is the secret? The secret is seeing action where there is no action and seeing no action where there is action. What is that? And that, let alone that is the person who sees rightly. Let alone seeing rightly, this seems to be totally wrong. When work is being done, you should say work is being done. When no work is being done, you should say no work is being done. But if you say just the opposite, how is it being seeing rightly? It's completely wrong. So what is the meaning? The Advaitic meaning there is this, that when action is performed, it is performed at the level of the body, at the level of the mind. Walk and talk, think, all of these are actions. Not at the level of consciousness. Awareness just reveals all this action to you. Prakriti does all action. Nature does action. You are the witness of it. There's a lot of depth in this. And another shloka in the 13th chapter of the Gita says, Prakriti-eva karmani kriyamanani sarvasha ya pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sapashyati. Nature alone performs all action. Who sees this, sees that I am not the doer of action. Atma is akarta, not the doer. Even when action is going on. Even in the midst of, so Swami Vivekananda said, this is the secret of action. What is the secret of action? In the midst of intense activity, absolute calm. He said that. And opposite, in the midst of absolute calm, intense activity. So everything is calm and quiet sitting, but it's deep concentration, highly sattvic mind, laser focused inside, yes. So that is the secret of action. The opposite, seeing action when there is no action. This is for the unenlightened. For the enlightened person, even while acting, while doing work, he will say, I am not doing anything, I do nothing. Although the person is intensely active on the physical front. Krishna, fully active, will say, I do nothing. And for the unenlightened person says, if I get involved in worldly action, that's what Arjuna was doing. If I get involved in worldly action, this is samsara. So I will withdraw from it. What is no action? I will sit quietly. He says the enlightened person says that is also action. The unenlightened person, Ajnani, when that person performs an act, that is karma. When that person withdraws from an act, that's also karma. Both will have result. If you ask, what are you doing? I am fasting. Fasting is not eating. But what did you ask? What are you doing? It's not doing an action, that's fasting, but that is still a kind of doing. Don't you have to put an effort for fasting? So to engage in action is karma. To withdraw from action deliberately, that is also karma. For whom? For Ajnani. So when an Ajnani, say Arjuna says, I will not fight the battle, I will not perform action. He says, akarmani cha karma ya pashyet. That is akarma, in that I see, that is also karma. You will get the result of that. For an enlightened person, whether there is action or no action at the physical level, like Vivekananda dynamically moving around the world, what was he called? Cyclonic Hindu. Or like Raman Maharshi sitting absolutely calm and serene in a cave. From internally, from their perspective, it is exactly the same. Whereas for an unenlightened person, I realized when I was I went away forcefully from Belur Mutt to stay in the high Himalayas and meditate and pray. And I thought, this is so nice. But I realized, what I am doing there, I am doing here also. There I think I am engaged in action, here I am withdrawing from action. Both are kind of action. Karmanya karmaya pashyet, akarmani cha karmaya. He says, Sa buddhiman manushyeshu. That person is the wise one among human beings. Sa Krishna karma krit. That one is the doer of all action. What does it mean? Ultimately, all action is meant to take you to enlightenment. This one is enlightened. So, this person has done all action. Whatever has to be done in life, this person has done. That is the meaning of that verse. Okay, we have time for one more question.
I remember my third now.
You remember your third question? I thought you would remember. Ask.
It's very straightforward. So I remember in one of your talks. In one of your talks, you had mentioned that subjecting the body to some hardship is beneficial. You have mentioned this. Swamiji, in a Western society like this, what would you recommend? What hardship would be, ideal, or how would it benefit us? So that was something I also wondered.
They always say there's a nice formula. Practice the easiest and start with the minimum. One Swami actually said it in Hindi. न्यूनतम से शुरू करो, सरलतम का अभ्यास करो. Start with the minimum and practice the easiest. So it could be in many aspects of life, like rising early. Don't say I'm going to rise at 4 a.m. if you're not used to that. If you're used to rising at 8 a.m., say I'm going to rise at 7. If you're used to rising at 7, say I'm going to rise at 6:30. So something that's reasonable. Food. People here are actually more conscious about healthy food than for health reasons, but that's also kind of austerity. Then exercise, then a routine, a daily routine. So these are mild forms of austerity. Severe forms of austerity would be like, I've seen so many monks in the Himalayas, like that Swami with the begging bowl, with the hand only. I've seen monks wearing only a loin cloth high 10,000 feet in the Himalayas, living like that. Body gets used to it. Unless one is old and sick or something frail, otherwise generally body gets used to a little bit of hardship, and it's good for the body, good for the mind also. Specifics I can't recommend, you have to see from your own lifestyle.
How will that lead to spiritual growth?
It increases willpower. Yeah. It has been given great importance in Indian spirituality. It is called tapasya. Tapa. We have exaggerated ideas of it. Guy with a long beard sitting with his feet in the air and head in the headstand. But tapasya is basically a physical discipline which generates willpower, which gives more integrated personality. Actually, there's a lot to be said about it. Okay. Last. Ask the question.
Swamiji, when we say good karma and bad karma, aren't we inducing dualistic notion to karma itself?
Absolutely. So karma itself is within dualism. So does Advaita accept karma? Only, I remember I said Advaita has to be understood at the absolute level, at the relative level. Paramarthika Vyavaharika. Here we are, sitting, talking, walking, eating, driving. Is this dualism or non-dualism? It's a dualistic experience. And for an unenlightened person, this is a dualistic universe. For an enlightened person, it is a non-dual reality, and in appearance it is dualistic. So in the level of appearance, in Sanskrit it is called Vyavaharika, transactional reality, relative reality, empirical reality. Karma is accepted. It is what propels our life. But from Brahman point of view, absolute point of view, no karma. Shankaracharya cuts it down. Even the theory of karma cannot stand. Only Brahman is real, and you are that reality.
I have one question.
All right, last word. Last word.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, my question is japa give us power?
Yes. Japa gives you power? Yes, it does. But don't do it for power.
No. I'm just asking you.
Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
To know that.
Let us do a peace chant. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swami Vivekananda to bless us, to shower their blessings upon us, so that this knowledge which we have been cultivating may it blossom in our lives, may it shed its light in our life, may we get peace and serenity and strength in our lives. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Sat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.